The Giants have a game coming up on Sunday against a team that played last Thursday. The Buccaneers beat the Panthers. They welcome the Giants to town, and the Giants will be putting out on the field quarterback Daniel Jones as the starter for the first time. Eli Manning gets benched for the second time in his career. The last time it didn't take. This time it's probably going to take, and various individuals central to this storyline met with the media on Wednesday. Let's begin with Pat Shurmur. He was asked by reporters, why did you make the change now? Here's what he said.
I think it just was my gut that it was time to make that move. I think when you draft a guy like, when you draft a guy like we did, at some point, and that was part of my conversation, at some point this was going to happen, and I just felt like this was the time.
You go with the gut, and I understand that the gut feeling is influenced by a variety of factors that only he is privy to, and he's in the building every day, and he's seeing what's happening on the practice field, etc. But if his gut was telling him to go with Daniel Jones now, Chris, his gut was telling him to go with Daniel Jones 2 weeks ago. He just wasn't able to convince the people above him in the organization to do it. That's my take on it.
Mike, I agree with you there. I think that this is a move that, for it to be made, had to be okayed by the Mara family. I would imagine that that's the case. And I would think that, even if Pat Shurmur did want to start Daniel Jones week 1 and felt like it gave him the best chance, that that probably was not allowed to happen because Eli was good enough in training camp and preseason to justify one more shot at it. But I still will go back, and not only to what everybody saw on the field from Eli Manning in week 1 and week 2, I think the fact that we saw that fan reaction emboldened the brass of the Giants to finally say, okay, I think the fans have, swallowed the reality that Eli Manning is no longer the guy he once was, and they're a little excited to see this Daniel Jones guy because he did look amazing in the preseason. He was probably won the award for best rookie quarterback in the preseason, right? So I think ultimately you're right. It was not more about Shurmur's gut, but the Mara family and how they wanted this all to be handled.
So Shurmur's ready for Daniel Jones to be the starter. The fans are ready for Daniel Jones to be the starter. Is Daniel Jones ready to be the starter? He was asked that question yesterday. Here's what he had to say in response.
I certainly feel good about how far I've come, and my preparation and my progress since I got here in the spring and through camp, through these first couple weeks. So, we'll try to make sure we have the best week we can, and I'll certainly do all I can to be as prepared as possible. But I think I feel ready, and certainly looking forward to the opportunity.
I bet that dude's a blast at parties. My goodness. Talk about sucking the energy out of the room. But that's what they wanted, right, Chris?
That's right.
They want a guy who's going to be flatlined.
Yes.
They want a guy who's not going to be affected by anything.
Right.
They want a guy who's going to go out there and get the job done and not choke in the clutch like Kirk Cousins does. That's what they have. That's what they've got. It's not going to be a bunch of great press conferences from Daniel Jones, but they want a guy who's going to go out there and just be kind of like a stone-cold killer when it's time to carve up a defense with his arm.
No question. I mean, they want a flatliner, a guy that's not going to be worried about what it says about him on Broadway or Times Square when he plays good or bad. And that's the great thing about what Eli Manning brought to it. And I've said this before, and my dad was the same way. Most boring damn interview you could ever imagine when he was the quarterback of the Giants. It's almost like New England-y in that way, as far as they just don't want the quarterbacks to say a whole lot or the players to say a whole lot or either way. But I'll say this much, okay? On the field, Daniel Jones, and again, he's got to get his feet underneath him and get used to football in the NFL, but I do think he's going to give them a better chance to win football games and move the ball on the offensive side of the ball as compared to Eli Manning. His arm just has more pop in it. He's going to be more willing to stand in the pocket and wait for plays to develop and take shots to make big throws down the field. And the other thing, Mike, is he's really an underappreciated athlete. He can run, and if he gets a little lane, don't be shocked if he rips off a 15 and 20-yard gain. I mean, he did that at Duke, and I think that's the thing that the Giants are probably excited about that he can bring to the offense.
Yeah, and look, this is why they made him the 6th overall pick. And you can say, well, we'd like to do the KC model. Remember all that talk? Remember all that BS about the KC model? Maybe even the Green Bay model if Eli Manning really plays well. And I said, how about the NYG model where you bench your starter during the season? And they actually accelerated the timetable because at least Kurt Warner got 9 games before he was benched for Eli Manning in 2004. Eli got 2, and Eli got a chance to talk to the media on Wednesday about the change in his circumstance. Here's what Eli Manning had to say.
Who knows? So, and it's, again, I'm not dying, and the season's not over. So there's a lot to be positive about, a lot to be grateful for, and and so I just got to, kind of accept my new role and make the best of it. Just taking this day by day. So just trying to figure out how to run a scout team. That was my number one objective of today, and thought I did pretty well.
There's no way that he believes what he's saying. There's no way he's not upset deep down that this happened. His job was taken away from him, just like they did 2 years ago.
Right.
And if he's got any competitive bone in his body, he is ticked off about what has transpired, and he's just saying the right things. And just that kind of sarcastic, I'm just trying to figure out how to run the scout team. I mean, there's got to be a fire burning in there somewhere, and that fire has got to be turned up to extra high after what just happened to Eli Manning.
I'm sure. I mean, he's a competitor. We know that. I mean, he's an all-time competitor for football and the New York Giants, and he's been awesome. He's been an amazing team guy. He's never made a spectacle of anything or said the wrong thing. He's handled himself like the ultimate professional his whole career. And he will continue to do that as he backs up Daniel Jones. I'm sure, Mike, he's pissed off and whatever else. But I do think Eli is logical enough to believe the other things he said. I got a lot of things to be grateful for. And I think, in the big picture of things, he can look at things and go, man, my career was pretty damn good. He could all he has to do is think about his dad's career and go, damn, I was pretty fortunate to be on a good team and win 2 Super Bowls. At least I didn't get, the short straw that my dad got going to the New Orleans Saints and just getting obliterated for years. So as tough as it is to swallow, and I can still remember the day my dad was told he was no longer the Giants quarterback. It's a sad day. It really is. And I feel for Eli Manning, but he did have a great run, and he was phenomenal, and he will be an NFL legend in the history books.
Isn't the best outcome for everyone, though, a parting of the ways?
No.
Doesn't it rub salt into the wound to have him standing there in uniform on the sideline every week? How is that good for anybody, Chris? Who does it help? Who does it really help?
Well, I don't think Eli Manning just wants to, pack up the bags and go sit at home and sit on the couch on Sundays. I think he wants to be there and probably enjoy what will probably be his last season to a degree. You can take it all in from that aspect. Eli Manning doesn't want to be anything but a New York Giant, and there is something special to that. Again, I've gotten to see that. I know my dad holds that dearly to his heart as far as being a New York Giant for a 15-year career. And I think Eli Manning's the same way, and he's certainly not going to uproot his family and kids and all that, and I think go somewhere else at this point too. So they're going to pay homage to him as the season goes along, and they're going to send him off in as a positive way as they possibly can.
And now you are walking right into my next point, because remember, we went into the season believing that the Giants were going to play Eli Manning for as long as they had a mathematical opportunity to make it to the postseason, and then it would be Daniel Jones down the stretch. By making the change now, Chris, I can tell you what's going to happen. They have a late bye. They've got a Monday night home game in November against the Cowboys. They have an away game against the Jets in their home stadium, Week 10, Week 11 bye. During their bye, we're going to start hearing clamoring for an Eli mini farewell tour. 3 home games in December. There's going to be pressure on the Giants to have him play Week 17 against the Eagles, Week 15 against the Dolphins, maybe even Week 13 against the Packers. And that's something that the Giants don't need at a time when they're trying to get reps for Daniel Jones. There will be a ton of pressure on this team to let Eli Manning exit while he's on the field, not on the sidelines. Another reason, if you're going to go with Daniel Jones, you rip the Band-Aid all the way off. You don't let it dangle there. You know how a Band-Aid dangles when you ripped off half of it and it hurt?
Thank
so
you.
you're letting the other half just hang there until you can muster the nerve to just try to. That's what the Giants are going to have, a dangling Band-Aid all year long until they rip it off for good. And I'm sorry, teams do this all the time. To players of every shape and size and every number of years of tenure with a team. When it's done, it's done. And for Eli Manning, it's done. And they are doing him a disservice and themselves a disservice and Daniel Jones a disservice by having him hang around. And I don't mean that disrespectful at all to Eli Manning and what he did. But now that it's over, for God's sake, just end it.
Well, they're not going to end it. I mean, because they don't want to.
But they should.
Why? If Daniel, the Giants still want to win games. Pat Shurmur is going to go on his gravestone what his record is. I mean, if they play horrible this year, he's going to be on the hot seat.
How does Eli Manning help you win games?
Because if Daniel Jones gets hurt, then you have a good backup that can come in. That's how. And he is going to help out Daniel Jones with meetings and things to look for. He's not a jerk. He's completely capable of being that type of human being. You're crazy for that. Okay, maybe they made a mistake by letting him hang around. It's a different set of circumstances than just a normal player. This is a guy that's going to go to the Hall of Fame and won 2 Super Bowls and 2 MVPs. And
I know. We can rattle off his resume all day. That's not the point. The point is going forward. Going forward, he's on the bench.
Okay.
And I think it hurts. Here, let me ask you this.
Yes, ask me it.
All right. If this decision gets made 2 weeks ago, that Daniel Jones is going to be the Week 1 starter, and Eli Manning is looking at that $11.5 million salary that becomes fully guaranteed if he's on the roster Week 1 under the CBA's termination pay provision, but you can walk away from the $11.5 million. That's a hell of a lot of money to pay for a backup quarterback. Do you cut him before Week 1 if you decide to commit to Daniel Jones as of the first week of his rookie year?
No, I don't think they.
Yes, you do. Yes,
I don't think they do.
You do.
I mean, they're not. I mean, again, it's a nice if theory, but that's just not the reality. Okay. Either way.
No, because they screwed up.
Okay.
They should have made the decision 2 weeks ago, and they should have moved on from Eli Manning then.
No, they weren't. They're not going to trust any of the other guys they have as a backup quarterback either. They're not going to disrespect Eli Manning. And if Daniel Jones can't stand that Eli Manning's on the sideline, and they might put a video tribute to him at some point during Week 17, and oh no, he might have to play a series or 2 versus
Week
the Eagles.
17. No.
Okay, he might start the game. Who gives a damn? Who gives a damn? It's not going to be like, oh gosh, Daniel Jones, his life and career are over. He lost 7 reps in the game. He'll never be the same.
Look, you're either all in or you're not. And if you're starting Daniel Jones, you need to be all in with him. And the only way to be all in with Daniel Jones is to get Eli Manning.
Go to commercial. You're wrong. We got to go to commercial.
What's more likely when we return? Shut up.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.